Hey everyone! Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating what-if scenarios in the MonsterVerse. What if Godzilla never existed? The King of the Monsters has been the centerpiece of this cinematic universe since its inception, but have you ever stopped to think about how different things would be without him? From the balance of power among Titans to the fate of humanity, the absence of Godzilla would send shockwaves through the entire MonsterVerse. So, buckle up, because we're about to explore a world where the alpha predator never rose to dominance. Let's rewind to the beginning, the late 1940s and early 1950s, when Monarch was first founded. In the original timeline, Godzilla's ancient presence served as a focal point for Monarch's studies and a proof of Earth's prehistoric titanic life. Monarch's core purpose, to study and monitor these creatures, was driven by the knowledge that Godzilla existed. If he had never been discovered, Monarch might have never risen to global prominence. The organization would likely have remained an obscure and underfunded research division, perhaps even dismissed as pseudoscience by the world's governments. The urgency that Godzilla's existence brought, the realization that colossal monsters walked the Earth, would be lost. The MonsterVerse as we know it began with Godzilla, 2014, which reintroduced the iconic kaiju to a new generation. But if Godzilla wasn't part of this universe, the entire foundation would shift. Monarch, the secret organization studying Titans, would have a completely different focus. Instead of tracking Godzilla's movements, they might have centered their research on other Titans like Mothra, Rodan, or even Ghidorah. Without Godzilla's presence, Monarch's understanding of Titans would be far more limited, as he has been their primary case study for decades. More importantly, the 2014 San Francisco battle, where Godzilla fought the Mutos, would never have happened. The Mutos, unchecked, would have continued their rampage, potentially wiping out entire cities. Humanity's first major encounter with Titans would have been catastrophic, with no protector to intervene. This could have led to a far more aggressive stance from governments, possibly triggering an all-out war against Titans rather than an attempt at coexistence. But in a Godzilla-less world, there would be no force strong enough to counter the Mutos. These parasitic creatures, born from radiation, would roam freely, spreading destruction and likely reproducing. Humanity would be completely at their mercy. One of the biggest consequences of Godzilla's absence is the unchecked rise of King Ghidorah. In Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Ghidorah awakens and immediately asserts himself as the Alpha Titan. Godzilla is the only one who can challenge him, but in this alternate timeline, there's no rival strong enough to stop him. In this alternate world, Ghidorah's rise is swift and absolute. With his otherworldly ability to awaken and control dormant Titans, Ghidorah would dominate the planet in mere weeks. Cities would fall, ecosystems would collapse, and humanity would face extinction. Ghidorah would not be a tyrant king, he would be a god, remaking the Earth in his image, reshaping climates, subjugating the planet's wildlife, and commanding dozens of rampaging Titans across every continent. In the MonsterVerse, balance is a central theme. Titans are not just monsters, they are forces of nature. And nature, as we've learned, abhors imbalance. Godzilla represented the stabilizing force. His presence kept creatures like Ghidorah in check. Without him, there would be no checks and balances. Titan-on-Titan battles would result in mass extinction events. Ghidorah's unnatural influence would amplify every ecological disaster. Hurricanes would intensify. Droughts would spread. The oxygen destroyer wouldn't have been deployed in an attempt to weaken Godzilla, because he wouldn't exist, and so it wouldn't damage the underwater ecosystem as we saw in King of the Monsters. Instead, the world would have to consider full-scale nuclear detonation just to slow Ghidorah down. Without Godzilla, Ghidorah would dominate the planet unchallenged. Titans like Rodan and Behemoth would either submit or be destroyed. Mothra, though powerful, isn't enough to defeat Ghidorah alone. The Earth would fall under Ghidorah's rule, leading to an era of destruction and extinction. Human civilization would collapse as cities are obliterated and the ecosystem is thrown into chaos. Ironically, without Godzilla, the threat of man-made monsters becomes more plausible. In Godzilla vs. Kong, Mechagodzilla was created to defeat the King of the Monsters. In our alternate timeline, Mechagodzilla may still be built, but this time, as a response to Ghidorah's planetary dominance. But there's a catch. Without Godzilla's DNA or energy signature, the creation of Mechagodzilla would rely on unstable alien power sources like the remnants of Ghidorah's head. We saw how that ended. The AI-driven Mechagodzilla became uncontrollable. In this world, with no Godzilla to fight it, Mechagodzilla might be mankind's final act of desperation, a weapon that turns against its creators and finishes what Ghidorah began. Let's also consider the Hollow Earth, one of the MonsterVerse's greatest mysteries. Godzilla was the key to understanding it. His movements through the tunnels revealed the Titan network beneath our feet. Without his excursions, Monarch would never have discovered the Hollow Earth energy source. The journey that Kong took in Godzilla vs. Kong would have never happened. Humanity would remain blind to the planet's true history, the Titan's origin, the ancient war between Kong's species and Godzilla's, and the incredible energy that powers the Titans. All of it would remain a mystery. Scientific advancement would stall. Humanity's understanding of its planet would remain stunted, ruled by fear rather than exploration. And what of the Titans themselves? Without Godzilla as the apex alpha, chaos among them would reign. Rodan, Behemoth, Methuselah, Scylla, all would be left to interpret Ghidorah's call. Many would fall under his influence, others would fight back, but without unity. The result? Constant territorial war among the Titans. Cities would become battlegrounds. Human civilization would become nomadic, retreating underground or into remote shelters, hoping to survive the next clash. The Earth would become a Titan war zone. Facing extinction, humanity would have to adapt quickly. Without Godzilla as a natural defender, militaries worldwide would likely resort to extreme measures. The oxygen destroyer, used in King of the Monsters, might be mass-produced as a last-ditch weapon against Titans. However, this could backfire, wiping out marine life and further destabilizing the planet. Another possibility is that humans would turn to Mecha King Ghidorah or other artificial titans as a countermeasure. If Monarch couldn't rely on Godzilla, they might accelerate their mechanized titan projects, leading to an arms race between man and monster. However, without a natural alpha to keep Ghidorah in check, even these mechas might not be enough. Godzilla's role as alpha extends beyond surface-level dominance. He maintains order in the Hollow Earth. Without him, the subterranean ecosystem would descend into chaos. New titans could emerge unchecked, leading to an endless cycle of destruction. Creatures like Kong would also face a different fate. In Godzilla vs. Kong, their rivalry is central, but without Godzilla, Kong's role changes entirely. He might never leave Skull Island, or he could be forced into conflict with other titans like Kamazots or the Skullcrawlers without Godzilla's influence. Another major impact would be the fate of Kong. On Skull Island, Kong had lived in relative isolation, guarded by a storm barrier and fighting off Skullcrawlers. In the real timeline, Kong's existence becomes essential after Godzilla temporarily disappears. But without Godzilla, the entire pressure of defending the planet might fall to Kong, and that's a responsibility he was never bred to bear alone. Remember, Kong is powerful, but he was not the alpha of the world. His dominion was Skull Island. Pitting him against Ghidorah would be a death sentence. Even if he survived, the psychological toll and physical destruction would leave Kong vulnerable to rising enemies. Kong's fate would also be tragically different. Without the eventual alliance between him and Godzilla, Kong would never rise to become Earth's new protector. In Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, we saw the evolution of Kong as he embraced his role in the Hollow Earth. But in our alternate timeline, his journey would be cut short. He might fall to Ghidorah, or worse, be manipulated into fighting for the wrong side, used as a pawn in humanity's desperate war. And speaking of the New Empire, the story of the Scar King, Shimo, and the Hollow Earth War would unravel drastically. Without Godzilla, there would be no one to break the energy surge in the Hollow Earth. Scar King might rise earlier. Without opposition, he and Shimo could escape into the surface world and launch a campaign of conquest. Kong alone couldn't stop them. Humanity would fall. The Earth would truly become the domain of monsters. In a world without Godzilla, the MonsterVerse becomes a dystopian nightmare. King Ghidorah reigns supreme, titans run rampant, and humanity is either enslaved or driven to the brink of extinction. There's no balance, just endless conflict. But here's the most interesting question. Would another titan rise to take Godzilla's place? Could Mothra, Kong, or even a new titan emerge as the protector of Earth? Or would the planet succumb to eternal chaos? Godzilla isn't just a monster. He's a force of nature, a guardian of balance. His absence would leave a void too great for any other Titan to fill. The MonsterVerse without Godzilla is a darker, deadlier place, proving just how essential he is to this universe. But here's the deeper takeaway. The MonsterVerse isn't just a franchise about big monsters punching each other. It's a reflection on nature, chaos, and the need for balance. Godzilla represents that balance. His presence isn't just exciting, it's essential. In removing him, we see a mirror held up to our own world. What happens when we lose the forces that protect and stabilize us? What happens when chaos reigns unchecked? In the end, a world without Godzilla is a world without hope, without unity, without balance. It's a sobering reminder that sometimes even the scariest monsters are the ones we need most. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into a darker version of the MonsterVerse, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. What do you think would happen if Godzilla never existed? Would humanity find another way to survive? Or would the Titans inherit the Earth? Let's discuss in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and never underestimate the power of the King of the Monsters.